Here we have what appears to be a symbolism question. For any integers x and y, the min and the max denote the minimum and maximum of x and y respectively, and here are a couple of examples. Okay, this actually is a pretty straightforward question. If you have these two numbers, x and y, the minimum is going to be whichever one was the smaller number, and the maximum of this symbol would be whichever number was the maximum number. This is a pretty straightforward symbolism question. It's basically just asking for highest or lowest. For the integer w, so w is a whole number, what is the value of min 10w? Now, I can see an interesting twist to this question, so I want to talk about what this question is really asking before I go down to the facts. This is clearly going to hinge on the w. If, and I'm going to consider the possibilities, if the w is greater than 10, then the minimum of those two things would be 10. If w equaled 10, if both numbers were 10, then the minimum would be 10. But if the w is less than 10, then the minimum value would be w. So this completely hinges on what the w is. If it's greater than or equal to 10, then the answer is 10. If it's something less than 10, then the answer is whatever that w is. So we have to keep track of that when we're dealing with the facts. That information will dictate what the answer to this question ultimately is. Let's take a look at fact 1. It says that w is the max, so let's get that down. W is the max of 20 comma z for some integer z. And we know that that's a whole number. That's not that big a deal, though. And the reason why is because we know that by definition, if it's the max of those two things, it's either 20 or it's z if z is greater than 20. Either way, w is going to be greater than or equal to 20. No matter how you slice it, it's the bigger of the two numbers, so it's going to be at least 20. And as a result, that means the answer to the question, what is the minimum of 10 and something that's at least 20? Well, the answer is 10. So you have enough information there to prove that fact 1 is sufficient on its own. You can use that to knock out B, C, and E. Fact 2 again talks about the max, and it says w is equal to the max of 10 comma w. So from that, we know that the w is at least 10 because it could be 10 or something greater than 10, depending on if the w was 10 or higher. As a result, it falls into that category. Again, the minimum value between w and 10 would be 10. Same answer, fact 2 is sufficient, and the final answer here is D. Remember that symbolism questions are usually not all that difficult. It's usually really straightforward algebra or arithmetic. Make sure you understand what the symbol means. Make sure you're answering what the question specifically asks you for, and you'll find that it's usually only a minute or two of work and some real easy points. Questions don't get a whole lot easier than this. Sometimes there are lots of little steps, but the work involved was really, really straightforward. And when you're dealing with straightforward questions, those are worth points. You got to make sure you're getting those every single time, especially if you're after that big score.